Spring 1865, Texas Panhandle. Rachel Brennan's hands shook as she aimed her dead husband's rifle at the stranger standing on her porch. Dawn painted the sky gold and pink behind him, but all she saw was threat. Another man come to take what little she had left. The war had ended 3 weeks ago. News traveled slow this far west, but it traveled. Men were coming home, or men who pretended to be coming home. Rachel had learned the hard way that desperate times made desperate men, and a woman alone on a ranch was easy prey. She'd buried Thomas 2 years back. Fever took him fast, left her with 300 acres of struggling ranch land, 12 head of cattle, and a pile of debt she couldn't pay. She was 28 years old and felt 50. Every day was about survival. Every night, about fear. The stranger on her porch didn't look like the drifters who'd tried their luck before. He was tall, lean in that way that spoke of hard work rather than hunger. Dark brown hair too long for civilized company. Face weathered by sun and something harder. Blue-gray eyes that looked right through her. He wore dusty trail clothes, a black hat held respectfully in his hands, and no visible weapons. That last part worried her most. Men out here always carried guns. A man without one was either stupid or dangerous enough not to need one. "Ma'am," he said, voice rough like he hadn't used it in days. "I mean you no harm. My name is Daniel Mackenzie. I have news about your husband." Rachel's finger tightened on the trigger. "My husband is dead. Been dead 2 years. You got the wrong ranch." "No, ma'am." He took one careful step forward, then stopped when she jerked the rifle. "I know Thomas Brennan is dead. I was there when he died." The world tilted. Rachel's vision blurred at the edges, but she kept the rifle steady. Thomas died in their bed. She'd held his hand while fever burned him from the inside. This man was lying. Thomas died of fever. Here, in our bedroom. I was with him. Daniel Mackenzie's expression shifted. Something like pain crossed his features, then resignation. "That's what you were told. It's not the truth. Get off my land." Thomas didn't die of fever. He was shot. In a town called Redemption, 3 days' ride from here. He lived long enough to tell me something, and he made me promise to find you if anything happened to him. Rachel's breath came short and fast. This couldn't be true. Thomas wouldn't have lied to her. He wouldn't have left without telling her. Unless, why would he be in Redemption? "Because there's gold hidden on this ranch, Mrs. Brennan. A lot of gold. And there are men who'd kill to find it." The rifle wavered. Rachel's arms burned from holding it steady, but she couldn't lower it. Couldn't trust this stranger who claimed to know things about her husband, about secrets Thomas never shared. "You're lying. There's no gold here. We were broke. We struggled every single day. That's because Thomas hid it, kept you safe by keeping you ignorant." Daniel's voice gentled. "I know this is hard to hear. I know you got no reason to trust me. But your husband saved my life during the war. He took a bullet meant for me at Sabine Pass. I owed him. Before he died, he told me where to find you, and warned me that a man named Ezekiel Wainwright would come looking for what Thomas hid. He made me swear I'd protect you." Rachel's hands trembled harder. Sabine Pass. Thomas had been at Sabine Pass. He'd come home with a scar on his shoulder he said came from a fall. He'd been different after that. quieter, more watchful. If Thomas wanted you to protect me, why wait 2 years? Daniel's jaw tightened. Because I was in prison, ma'am. False charges. I just got out 3 days ago. Soon as I was free, I came here. And I'm betting I'm not the only one. As if summoned by his words, the sound of horses carried across the morning air. Multiple riders, moving fast. Rachel's heart slammed against her ribs. Daniel's eyes snapped toward the sound, then back to her. Mrs. Brennan, you got 2 choices. You can shoot me and face whatever's coming alone. Or you can trust that your husband knew what he was doing when he sent me here. But you got about 30 seconds to decide. Rachel looked at this stranger, this Daniel Mackenzie who claimed to owe Thomas a debt. She looked at his eyes, searching for the lie. What she saw there was urgency, determination, and something else. Truth, maybe. Or desperation that mirrored her own. The horses were closer now. She could hear men's voices, rough and eager. Rachel lowered the rifle. Inside. Now. Daniel moved fast, crossing the porch in 2 strides. Rachel backed through the doorway, keeping the rifle between them even as she let him enter. She kicked the door shut and dropped the wooden bar across it. Back door? Daniel asked. Kitchen. Already barred. He nodded, moved to the window, careful to stay to the side. Rachel joined him, rifle ready. Together they watched as 6 riders emerged from the morning mist. They wore range clothes, but these weren't cowboys. These were hired guns, the kind of men saloons employed to keep order and settle debts. The leader was a big man with a red beard and a scar across his cheek. He pulled his horse up 20 feet from the house and grinned. Mrs. Brennan, we know you're in there. Mr. Wainwright sent us to collect what's owed. Rachel's stomach dropped. Ezekiel Wainwright. Owner of the Silver Dollar Saloon in Redemption. Thomas had mentioned that name once, late at night, when he thought she was sleeping. He'd sounded afraid. I don't owe Wainwright anything, she called back. Redbeard laughed. That's not what Mr. Wainwright says. Says your husband stole from him. Says that makes this ranch rightfully his. You can come out peaceful, or we can come in and get you. Your choice. Daniel touched her arm. Rachel flinched, but didn't pull away. His hand was warm, solid, steadying. They're not here for debt, he said quietly. They're here for the gold. Wainwright knows it's hidden somewhere on this property. He'll burn this house down with you in it, if that's what it takes. Then we fight. 6 against 2. Bad odds. You got a better idea? Daniel studied her face. In the golden morning light streaming through the window, Rachel saw something shift in his expression. Recognition, maybe. Or respect. Actually, I do. But you're not going to like it. Try me. We run. Right now. Out the back while they're watching the front. We get to the hills, hide until dark, then circle back and find that gold before they do. This is my home, and you'll lose it if you're dead. His voice was firm but not unkind. Thomas sent me here to protect you, ma'am. I aim to do that. But I can't protect you if you won't let me. Outside, Redbeard was getting impatient. We're coming in, Mrs. Brennan. Last chance. Rachel looked around her small house. the table where she and Thomas ate breakfast, the rocking chair he'd made her, the bed they'd shared, everything she had left of the life they'd built. Then she looked at Daniel Mackenzie, this stranger, who'd appeared like an answer to a prayer she hadn't dared speak. His eyes held steady on hers, waiting, trusting her to make the right choice. "The gold," she said. "Where did Thomas hide it?" "He told me it was in the place where water runs uphill and stone grows from the ground. Mean anything to you?" Rachel's breath caught. The cave, 3 miles north, hidden in the rocky hills. There was a spring inside that seemed to flow upward due to the slope, and mineral deposits that looked like stone fingers reaching from the cave floor. Thomas had shown her once, early in their marriage, called it his secret place. "I know where it is." "Then we go." Now. The sound of breaking glass came from the back of the house. They'd sent someone around. Daniel grabbed her hand. Rachel grabbed a canvas bag from beside the door, stuffed with the few things she'd prepared for emergencies. Ammunition. Matches. Thomas's pistol. A canteen. Some dried meat. They ran. The prairie grass was wet with morning dew, soaking Rachel's skirt within minutes. Behind them, men shouted. A gunshot cracked the air. Daniel pulled her faster, his hand an iron grip around hers. They reached the tree line as another shot kicked up dirt beside Rachel's feet. Daniel shoved her behind a wide oak, his body between her and the shooters. His breathing was hard but controlled. Hers was pure panic. "Can you ride?" he asked. "Yes." "Good. There's 2 horses in a draw about half a mile east. We get to them, we got a chance. They'll follow. Let them try." He pulled his own pistol from inside his vest. Rachel hadn't seen it before. He'd hidden it well, made himself look unarmed to earn her trust. The realization should have scared her. Instead, it made her feel safer. They moved through the trees, Daniel leading. He knew how to move quiet, how to use cover. Military training, Rachel guessed. Thomas had moved the same way after he came back from the war. The horses were where Daniel said they'd be. 2 sturdy mounts, saddled and ready. Daniel had planned this, known they might have to run. He boosted Rachel into the saddle of a dappled gray mare, then swung onto a big bay gelding. They kicked the horses into a gallop just as Redbeard and his men crashed through the trees behind them. The chase was on. They rode hard for the hills, Daniel leading them through terrain that grew rougher with every mile. Rachel's mare was sure-footed, taking the rocky ground without stumbling. Behind them, the sounds of pursuit faded as the professional gunman struggled with the difficult path. Daniel knew this country. He'd scouted it, prepared. Rachel should have been terrified of this stranger who seemed to know so much, who had planned so carefully. But Thomas had trusted him. Thomas had sent him. And right now, Daniel Mackenzie was the only thing standing between her and the men who wanted her dead. They reached the hills as the sun climbed higher. Daniel slowed the pace, letting the horses breathe. Rachel's legs ached from gripping the saddle, her hands raw from clutching the reins. She'd ridden plenty, but never like this. Never running for her life. "How much further?" she asked. "Another hour if we're careful. Less if we push, but we'll wear out the horses. They'll find us. Not if we're smart." He glanced at her, and for the first time since dawn, Something almost like a smile touched his face. You did good back there. Kept your head. Thomas said you were tough. Thomas talked about me? Every chance he got. Daniel's expression softened. He loved you, ma'am. Everything he did to keep you safe. Rachel's throat tightened. She'd been so angry at Thomas for dying, for leaving her alone. But if what Daniel said was true, if Thomas had been killed trying to protect her from something she didn't even know existed, then maybe she'd been angry at the wrong person. Tell me about the gold, she said. Where did it come from? Daniel was quiet for a long moment, guiding his horse around a cluster of boulders. When he spoke, his voice was careful. Thomas never told you about Sabine Pass? Just that he was there. That it was bad. It was worse than bad. It was a massacre waiting to happen. We were outnumbered, outgunned, surrounded. Thomas and I were part of a supply unit that got separated from the main force. We had a wagon full of Confederate gold, payment for weapons that never came. When the Union forces closed in, Thomas made a decision. He buried that gold, rather than let either side have it. Said too many men had died for money already. Rachel stared at him. Confederate gold. A fortune in stolen treasure hidden somewhere on her land. No wonder men were willing to kill for it. How did Wainwright find out? Thomas got drunk one night in redemption. Started talking about treasure, about keeping it safe. Wainwright heard enough to get curious, started asking questions. Thomas realized his mistake and ran, but Wainwright sent men after him. They caught him 3 days outside of town and shot him. Yes, ma'am. But Thomas was smart. He made it look like a robbery, made sure they didn't find anything on him that would lead back to you or the gold. Then he found me, told me everything, and made me promise. Why you? Daniel's jaw tightened. Because I owed him my life, and because he knew I understood what it meant to lose everything. There was pain in those words, old and deep. Rachel wanted to ask what Daniel had lost, but they'd reached a narrow canyon entrance. Daniel held up a hand for silence. They dismounted, leading the horses on foot. The canyon walls rose steep on either side, red rock worn smooth by ancient water. Rachel's heart pounded. This was close to the cave, close to where Thomas had hidden his secret, close to answers she wasn't sure she wanted. The cave entrance was hidden behind a curtain of willow branches growing from a seep in the rock face. Rachel had forgotten how completely concealed it was. Even knowing where to look, she almost missed it. Daniel tied the horses to a sturdy shrub and pulled the willows aside. Cool air breathed from the darkness beyond. Rachel hesitated at the threshold. What if the gold isn't there? Then we find another way to stop Wainwright. What if it is there? Daniel looked at her, really looked at her. In the dappled shade beneath the willows, his eyes were more gray than blue, serious and steady. Then we use it to buy your freedom, your ranch, your life, whatever it takes. It's Confederate gold. It's stolen. The Confederacy doesn't exist anymore. That gold belongs to whoever has the courage to claim it. Your husband claimed it, died protecting it. It's yours now. Rachel took a breath and stepped into the darkness. The cave was exactly as she remembered. The spring bubbled from a crack in the stone floor, its water flowing up and over a natural lip. before disappearing into a channel that led deeper into the earth. Mineral deposits rose like frozen waterfalls, white and gleaming in the dim light. Daniel pulled a match from his pocket and lit a small lantern he'd carried in his saddlebag. Warm light pushed back the shadows. "Where?" he asked. Rachel moved to the far wall, where the stone fingers were tallest. Thomas had shown her a loose rock here once, said it was a good place to hide valuables. She thought he meant documents, or maybe a bit of money. She hadn't imagined this. The rock came free easily. Behind it was a hollow space, and inside that space were canvas bags. 5 of them. Daniel lifted one out and opened it. Gold coins spilled into the lantern light, gleaming like captured sunlight. "Lord have mercy," Rachel whispered. There was enough gold here to buy 10 ranches. Enough to live like royalty for the rest of her life. Enough to make her a target for every desperate man between here and the Rio Grande. Daniel was already calculating. Rachel could see it in his eyes, the way he studied the bags, the cave entrance, the situation. "We can't carry it all," he said. "Not on 2 horses with Wainwright's men hunting us. So what do? We take what we need to prove it exists. Hide the rest better. Use the sample to negotiate." "Negotiate with Wainwright? He wants me dead." "Not if we're smart about it. Wainwright's a businessman. If we can prove the gold exists and offer him a cut to leave you alone, he might deal." Rachel's laugh was harsh. "You don't know men like him. They don't deal. They take. Then we find another way. But first, we need to know exactly what we're dealing with." They worked quickly, taking 2 bags of coins and resealing the cave as best they could. Daniel was thorough, making sure no trace of their presence remained obvious. Military precision in every movement. As they prepared to leave, Rachel touched his arm. He stopped, turned to face her in the close confines of the cave entrance. "Why are you really doing this?" she asked. "The truth." Daniel looked at her for a long moment. His face was hard to read in the mixed shadow and lantern light, but his eyes were honest. "Because Thomas Brennan saved my life when he didn't have to. Because after the war, I lost my own ranch, my own wife, everything that mattered. I got accused of a crime I didn't commit, and spent 2 years in a cell thinking about all the ways I'd failed the people I loved. Your husband gave me a chance at redemption. A way to make one thing right in a world that's mostly wrong. That's why." Rachel's hand was still on his arm. She could feel the tension in his muscles, the coiled strength of a man who'd survived things that broke others. "What happened to your wife?" "Cholera. While I was in prison. I never got to say goodbye." The pain in those words was fresh, despite the time that had passed. Rachel understood that kind of pain. The kind that didn't heal, just learned to live alongside you. "I'm sorry." "Me too." They stood close in the cave mouth, 2 people carrying more grief than gold, more scars than hope. But something passed between them in that moment. Understanding. Recognition. 2 souls who knew what it meant to survive when living felt impossible. Daniel cleared his throat and stepped back. "We should move. They'll be searching these hills by now." They mounted up and rode east, away from the cave, away from Rachel's ranch. The sun was past its peak now, the afternoon stretching long and hot. They needed water soon, needed rest. But more than that, they needed a plan. "There's an old line shack about 5 miles from here," Rachel said. My husband used it during roundup. It's got a well. Anyone else know about it? Not many. It's off the main trails. Then that's where we go. The line shack was rough. Just 4 walls and a roof. But it was shelter. Daniel checked the perimeter while Rachel drew water from the well. The horses drank deeply, and so did she. Only then did she realize how thirsty she'd been, how frightened. Inside the shack, Daniel built a small fire in the stone hearth. Not enough to draw attention, just enough for warmth as the evening cooled. They ate the dried meat from Rachel's bag, chewing in tired silence. "We can't run forever," Rachel said finally. "I know. And we can't fight them. Not 6 armed men. I know that too. So what do we do?" Daniel stared into the small fire. The flames painted shadows across his face, made him look older, wearier. "We go to the law. Show them the gold. Explain that Wainwright is trying to steal your property through false claims and violence. We get the sheriff involved. The sheriff in redemption works for Wainwright. Then we go to the next county, or the one after that. We keep going until we find a lawman who isn't corrupt." Rachel wanted to believe it could be that simple. But she learned the hard way that the law protected those with money and power, not widows with more trouble than help. What if there isn't one? An honest lawman? Then we make Wainwright an offer he can't refuse. Give him half the gold to leave you and your ranch alone. Enough to make him rich, not enough to make it worth the risk of killing us for the rest. He'll just take it all. Not if we're smart about how we do it. Not if we have leverage. What leverage? Daniel pulled something from his inside vest pocket. A folded paper, worn and creased. He handed it to Rachel. She opened it carefully. It was a deed. To the Silver Dollar Saloon. Signed by Ezekiel Wainwright. With a date from 3 months ago. "Where did you get this?" "Found it in Wainwright's safe 2 nights ago. Turns out the saloon isn't paid off. He owes the bank in Austin nearly $10,000. If he doesn't pay by the end of this month, he loses everything." Rachel stared at him. "You broke into his safe?" I needed to know what we were dealing with. What kind of man Thomas had crossed. And I found out. Wainwright's desperate. He needs that gold to save his own neck. That makes him dangerous. But it also gives us power. How? We offer him enough gold to clear his debt and have some left over. In exchange, he signs a legal document stating he has no claim to your property and will cease all harassment. We do the exchange in front of witnesses, in a public place, with the local law present. He can't afford to refuse, and he can't afford to double-cross us if it means losing his saloon. It was a good plan, maybe even a brilliant one. But Rachel had lived through enough disappointments to know that good plans often failed. And if he agrees, then double-crosses us anyway? Then I kill him. Daniel said it matter-of-fact, without heat or bravado. A simple statement of intent. Rachel believed him. You'd risk your life for a woman you just met? For a promise you made to a dead man? Daniel's eyes found hers across the small fire. In that moment, Rachel saw past the hard exterior, past the careful control. She saw loneliness that matched her own, loss that echoed through empty rooms, a need for purpose that had nothing to do with gold and everything to do with redemption. I already told you why. Thomas gave me a reason to matter again. This isn't just about keeping a promise. It's about proving I'm still worth something, that I can protect someone when it counts, that I didn't fail everyone. Rachel understood. God help her, she understood completely. Okay, she said. We do it your way. We make the deal with Wainwright. We'll need to go to Redemption tomorrow. Set up the meeting for the day after. Give him time to think about it. Not enough time to plan something elaborate. That means spending tonight here. Together. The words hung in the air between them, heavy with implication neither had intended. Rachel felt heat rise to her cheeks. Daniel looked away, jaw tight. I'll sleep outside, by the fire. You take the shack. Don't be ridiculous. It's cold at night. We'll both freeze if we split up. Ma'am, I don't think... I'm not suggesting anything improper, Rachel interrupted. I'm suggesting we both survive the night so we can face tomorrow. There's enough room inside for 2 people to sleep on opposite sides of a very small room. Unless you don't think you can control yourself? Daniel's expression shifted. Something that might have been amusement touched his eyes. I think I can manage, Mrs. Brennan. Good. Then it settled. They prepared for sleep as darkness fell completely. Daniel checked the door, made sure the fire was banked low. Rachel spread the horse blankets on opposite sides of the shack, making clear boundaries. It was the most intimate she'd been with a man since Thomas died, and that scared her more than she wanted to admit. Not because she didn't trust Daniel, but because she did. She lay down on her makeshift bed, fully clothed, her back to the room. She could hear Daniel settling on the other side, the rustle of fabric, the soft exhale as he stretched out his tired body. Mrs. Brennan? His voice came quiet through the darkness. Yes? She lead more der supposed bet me once bless, so hast to round her. Like you mentioned Mr. the whether or not her him. They're my place where a lost allows white. Yes? Cone let dranding attend to get out of him. Clow fell minded then, all the crime planet or spoons the twice. Thomas was right about you. You're one of the strongest people I've ever met. Rachel's throat tightened. I don't feel strong. I feel terrified. That's what makes you strong. Being terrified and doing it anyway. She closed her eyes, let his words settle over her like a blanket. Outside, the prairie night sang with insects and distant coyotes. Inside, 2 broken people tried to sleep, tried to trust, tried to believe that tomorrow might offer something other than more loss. Rachel didn't expect to sleep, but exhaustion pulled her under. She dreamed of Thomas, of the ranch, of gold coins that turned to dust in her hands. She dreamed of Daniel's voice saying her name, gentle and urgent. She woke to find it wasn't a dream. Rachel. He never used her first name before. The intimacy of it brought her fully awake. Someone's outside. She sat up, heart hammering. Daniel was crouched by the small window, pistol in hand. Pre-dawn light barely touched the horizon, but it was enough to see shapes moving through the scrub brush. 3 riders, maybe 4. How did they find us? She whispered. Doesn't matter. They're here. Daniel moved to the door, checked the bar. We got maybe 2 minutes before they figure out we're inside. We can't run. The horses need rest. Then we fight. 3 against 2. You said those were bad odds. They are. But we don't have a choice. He handed her Thomas's pistol from her bag. You remember how to use this? Thomas taught me. Good. Don't hesitate. These men won't. Rachel took position on the other side of the window, her hands steadier than she expected. Fear had a way of sharpening everything when survival was on the line. The riders approached slowly, spreading out. They knew someone was inside. They were being careful. "Mrs. Brennan." The voice belonged to Redbeard. "We know you're in there. Make this easy on yourself. Come out now and maybe we let you live." Daniel caught her eye, shook his head slightly. "Don't answer. Don't give them anything." "We found your horses! Got nowhere to run now! Wainwright just wants the gold! Tell us where it is and we'll leave you be!" "They're lying," Daniel whispered. "Wainwright can't leave witnesses. We know too much." Rachel knew he was right. These men would kill them both, take the gold, and burn the evidence. She and Daniel would just disappear. Another tragedy in a territory full of them. "Last chance," Redbeard called. "Come out, or we burn you out." Daniel moved to the back wall, tested the boards. Some were loose, weathered by years of sun and rain. He pulled one free, creating a gap just wide enough for a person to slip through. "When I start shooting, you go through here. Get to the rocks north of here and hide. Don't wait for me. Don't look back. Just run. I'm not leaving you. Rachel." Her name again soft and urgent. "You're what matters here. Thomas trusted me to keep you safe. Let me do that. By dying, by giving you a chance." He gripped her shoulder, his hand warm and solid. "I've had a good run, made my peace with whatever comes. But you deserve more. You deserve a life. So please, when I say go, you go." Before she could argue, he moved to the door, yanked the bar free, and kicked it open. The gunfire was immediate and deafening. Daniel fired twice, dropped back behind the door frame. Rachel saw one of the riders fall from his horse. The others scattered, taking cover behind rocks and scrub. "Go!" Daniel shouted. Rachel wanted to refuse, wanted to stay and fight beside him. But she saw the determination in his eyes. The acceptance. He'd made his choice. She had to make hers. She squeezed through the gap in the wall, scraping her arms on rough wood. Hit the ground running, staying low. Gunfire cracked behind her. Men shouted. She didn't look back. The rocks were 50 yards away. Might as well have been 50 miles. Her legs burned. Her lungs screamed. Any second she expected a bullet to tear through her back. It didn't come. She dove behind a boulder, gasping. Turned to look back at the shack. Daniel was holding them off, firing from the doorway, then the window, moving fast to keep them guessing where he'd appear next. He was good, better than good. But he was one man against three, and they were closing in. Rachel raised her pistol, sighted on one of the riders trying to flank the shack. She squeezed the trigger. The recoil kicked her hand back, but she saw the man jerk, grab his shoulder, fall back. Daniel saw it too. He glanced toward her hiding spot, and even at this distance, she saw his expression. Surprise, concern, maybe something else. But he used the distraction she'd created, burst from the shack at a run, firing as he moved, took down another rider. Then he was beside her. pressing his back against her boulder, breathing hard. "I told you to run. I don't follow orders well." Despite everything, he almost smiled. "I'm starting to see that." 2 riders left, Redbeard and a thin man with a sharp face. They'd taken cover behind their dead companions' horses, using the animals as shields. Smart. Ugly, but smart. "We're pinned," Daniel said. "They know where we are now. So we move." "Where?" "It's open ground in every direction." Rachel looked around. He was right. The rock formation where they hid was the only real cover. Beyond it was nothing but scrub brush and prairie grass. They'd be easy targets. Unless... "The wash," she said. 30 yards east. It's maybe 4 feet deep, runs north for a quarter mile. If we can get to it, we can move under cover. That's a long 30 yards. You got a better idea? Daniel checked his ammunition. 3 shots left. Rachel had 2. Not enough for a prolonged fight. "We go together. On 3. I'll cover you, you cover me. We both make it, or neither of us does." Rachel nodded. Her heart hammered so hard, she thought it might break through her chest. But she was done running, done being helpless. If she was going to die today, she'd die fighting. "1," Daniel said. Rachel took a breath. 2. She gripped her pistol tighter. 3. They ran. Rachel fired blind, just trying to keep Redbeard's head down. Beside her, Daniel did the same. Bullets kicked up dirt around their feet. One tugged at Rachel's skirt. Another passed so close to her face she felt the air move. Then they were in the wash, sliding down the steep bank into blessed cover. Rachel's ankle twisted on the rough ground, but she didn't stop. They ran north, bent low, the wash walls protecting them from the worst of the gunfire. Behind them, men cursed and scrambled. They'd have to come down into the wash to follow, and that would make them easy targets. Daniel pulled Rachel around a bend where the wash deepened. They pressed against the far bank, gasping for air. "You hurt?" he asked. "No." "You?" He had blood on his sleeve. Not much, but enough. Rachel reached for it without thinking, pushing the fabric aside to see a shallow graze across his upper arm. "It's nothing," he said, but he didn't pull away from her touch. "It needs cleaning. Later. If there is a later." They heard voices approaching. Redbeard and Sharpface were coming. Careful now, knowing their quarry was armed and dangerous. Daniel ejected his spent cartridges, reloaded from his belt. Rachel did the same, her hands shaking slightly. They had maybe 6 shots between them. Had to make every one count. "When they come around that bend," Daniel whispered, "we end this." Rachel nodded. She wasn't thinking about right or wrong anymore. Just survival. Just making it through to see another sunrise. The voices got closer, boots crunching on gravel, the distinctive click of hammers being pulled back. Then, Redbeard appeared around the bend, gun raised. Daniel fired first. Rachel fired a half-second later. Both shots found their mark. Redbeard went down hard, didn't move again. Sharpface was smarter. He'd hung back, let Redbeard take the risk. Now he knew where they were, and he had the advantage. All he had to do was wait them out. "You got 2 choices," he called. "Come out and face me like adults, or stay there and die of thirst." "We could wait him out," Rachel whispered. "He's right about the water. We got none. He can just sit up there and pick us off when we get desperate enough to move." "So what do we do?" Daniel studied the wash walls, the curve of the channel, the distance to where Sharpface had taken cover. His expression was calculating, measuring odds Rachel couldn't see. "You stay here. Keep him talking. I'm going to circle around." "Daniel, no. It's too risky." "Everything's risky. But if we both stay here, we both die." He touched her face. Just a brief brush of his fingers against her cheek. "Trust me." Then he was moving, climbing the far bank with surprising speed, keeping low. Rachel's heart climbed into her throat as she watched him disappear into the scrub. "Hey!" she called to Sharpface. "You got a name?" Silence. Then, "Pike." "Not that it matters." "It matters. Every man's got a name, got a story. What's yours?" "You trying to appeal to my better nature, lady?" "I don't got one. Everyone's got something. You got family?" "Had a wife once. She left. Said I was no good." Pike laughed, bitter. She was right. Rachel kept talking, kept him distracted. Told him about the ranch, about Thomas, about trying to survive alone. She didn't know if Pike was listening, or if he cared. She just needed to give Daniel time. Minutes crawled by. The sun climbed higher, heat building in the wash. Rachel's throat was dust dry. She wondered if Pike was right, if they'd just die down here of thirst and exposure. Then she heard the scuffle. A grunt. The sound of bodies hitting hard ground. Rachel scrambled up the bank, pistol ready. Found Daniel and Pike locked together, rolling across the rough ground. Pike had his gun hand pinned, but he was bigger, using his weight to his advantage. Rachel couldn't get a clear shot. They moved too fast, too close together. All she could do was watch, and wait, and pray. Daniel managed to flip Pike, get on top. But Pike's free hand found a rock and swung it hard. Caught Daniel across the temple. Daniel's grip loosened. Pike heaved him off, grabbed for his fallen gun. Rachel fired. The bullet took Pike in the chest. He looked surprised, looked down at the spreading red stain, then looked at Rachel. His expression was almost curious. "You got sand, lady," he said. Then he fell. Rachel's hand shook so badly she dropped the gun. She'd killed a man. Shot him dead. The reality of it hit her like a physical blow, stealing her breath. Daniel was up, bleeding from the cut on his temple but moving. He kicked Pike's gun away, checked for a pulse. Found none. Then, he turned to Rachel. She was staring at her hands, at the gun on the ground, at the body. "Rachel!" Daniel's voice was gentle. He stepped between her and Pike, blocking her view. "Look at me. Just look at me." She met his eyes. They were steady, calm, anchoring. "You did what you had to do. He would have killed me, would have killed you. You saved us both. I killed him. You survived. There's a difference." Rachel's vision blurred. She wasn't crying, exactly. Just overflowing. Too much fear, too much adrenaline, too much everything, all at once. Daniel pulled her against his chest, his arms coming around her. She could hear his heart beating, fast but strong. Could feel the heat of him, the solid reality. "It's over," he murmured into her hair. "You're safe. We're safe." She let herself have that moment. Let herself be held, be weak, be human. Tomorrow, she'd have to be strong again. But right now, she just needed this. When she finally pulled back, Daniel's shirt was damp where her face had been. He didn't mention it. "We need to move," he said. "Get the horses. Get somewhere safer. Wainwright will send more men when these don't come back." Rachel nodded, pulled herself together, wiped her face on her sleeve, picked up the gun she'd dropped. She was still shaking, but she was functional. That would have to be enough. They gathered the dead men's weapons and ammunition, took their horses. It felt wrong somehow, scavenging from corpses. But Daniel was right. They needed every advantage they could get. The ride back to retrieve their own horses was tense and silent. Rachel kept seeing Pike's surprised face, kept hearing the sound the bullet made hitting flesh. She wondered if that image would ever leave her. By midday, they'd put miles between themselves and the line shack. Daniel led them to a creek running through a shallow canyon, a place where they could see anyone approaching from a distance. They watered the horses, refilled their canteens. Rachel cleaned the graze on Daniel's arm with creek water, tore a strip from her petticoat to bind it. Her hands were steadier now. Doing something practical helped. "Thank you," Daniel said as she tied off the makeshift bandage. "For what?" "For saving my life. For not running when I told you to. For being exactly who you are." Rachel met his eyes. In the bright noon sun, they were more blue than gray, startling against his tanned face. He had a bruise forming along his jaw from where Pike hit him. Blood still showed in his hair from the temple cut. He looked dangerous and weary, and somehow more real than any man she'd ever known. "Who am I?" she asked. "Someone worth fighting for." The words hung between them, heavy with meaning. Rachel felt something shift in her chest, some wall she'd built crumbling despite her best efforts to keep it standing. She'd loved Thomas, would always love Thomas. But Thomas was gone, and Daniel was here, bleeding and brave, and looking at her like she was something precious. "We should rest," she said, breaking the moment because it scared her too much to hold it. "Plan our next move." Daniel nodded, but something changed in his expression. Disappointment, maybe, or understanding. They made camp in the canyon shade, taking turns keeping watch. Rachel tried to sleep but couldn't. Her mind kept spinning, replaying the morning, Pike's death, Daniel's words. Someone worth fighting for. When was the last time anyone had said something like that to her? When was the last time anyone had looked at her and seen more than a widow? A burden, a problem to be solved. Daniel saw her as a person, as capable, as worthy, and that terrified her because it meant she might have to see herself that way too. Might have to admit she wanted more than just survival. Might have to risk her heart again when she'd sworn never to do exactly that. "You should eat something," Daniel said, breaking the long silence. Rachel realized he'd been watching her, not in a way that made her uncomfortable, but like he was trying to read her thoughts, understand what she needed. "I'm not hungry." "Eat anyway. You'll need your strength." He was right, of course. She forced down some dried meat and hardtack, washing it down with creek water that tasted of minerals and stone. "We need to talk about redemption," Daniel said. "About how we approach Wainwright. You still think he'll deal? He doesn't have a choice. Without that gold, he loses everything. Men like Wainwright, they only understand two things: money and power. We're offering him money and taking away his power to threaten you. He'll deal. And if he doesn't, then I handle it." Rachel studied his face. "You've killed before." It wasn't a question. She could see it in the way he moved, the way he'd handled himself in the fights. This wasn't a man who hesitated when violence was necessary. In the war, after the war, more times than I care to remember. Daniel's voice was flat, emotionless. "I'm not proud of it, but I won't apologize for doing what had to be done. Does it get easier? No. It gets quieter. But not easier." Rachel thought about Pike, about the weight of taking a life. She wondered if that weight would ever lessen, or if she'd carry it forever. "I don't regret it," she said quietly. "Shooting him. I should, maybe. But I don't. Does that make me a bad person? It makes you human, and a survivor." Daniel shifted closer, his knee almost touching hers. "Rachel, listen to me. What happened today, what you did, it doesn't define you. It's one moment in a life full of moments. You're still the woman who ran her ranch alone for 2 years, who refused to give up when most people would have, who had the courage to trust a stranger because her husband asked her to. That's who you are. Not this." His words settled into her chest, warm and reassuring. She wanted to believe them, wanted to believe she could move past this morning, past the fear and violence. "What about you?" she asked. "Who are you? Beyond the man my husband sent?" Daniel looked away, toward the creek flowing past. His profile was sharp, weathered, handsome, in a way that had nothing to do with perfection and everything to do with character earned through hardship. "I'm a man who lost everything and is trying to figure out if he deserves a second chance. That's all. You deserve one. Do I?" He turned back to her, and the pain in his eyes was raw. "I couldn't save my wife, couldn't protect her. Was sitting in a cell on false charges while she died alone, scared, calling for me. What kind of man does that make me? A man who got dealt a cruel hand. You couldn't have known. I should have fought harder against the charges. Should have broken out. Should have done something. And likely gotten yourself killed. Then both of you would be dead." Rachel reached out, touched his hand. "You can't change the past, Daniel. None of us can. All we can do is try to make the present count for something." His fingers turned, laced through hers. The contact was electric, intimate in a way that had nothing to do with passion and everything to do with connection. "You're wise for someone so young. I'm 28 and feel 50. Tragedy ages you. It does. But it also teaches you what matters. And right now, what matters is keeping you alive and free. Everything else is secondary." Rachel looked at their joined hands. When had she stopped thinking of him as a stranger? When had he become this? Someone she trusted. Someone she relied on. Someone whose touch made her feel safer than she'd felt in years. "After this is over," she said slowly, "after we deal with Wainwright and settle the gold, what will you do?" Daniel was quiet for a long moment. "I don't know. Haven't thought much past keeping my promise to Thomas. You could stay. On the ranch. I could use help. And you need somewhere to go." The words surprised her even as she spoke them. But once they were out, she realized she meant them. The thought of Daniel riding away, of facing the future alone again, made her chest tight. Rachel. Her name was careful, measured. "You know that wouldn't be proper. A widow and an unattached man living on the same property. The talk would destroy your reputation." "I don't care about talk." "You should. Reputation matters out here. It's all people have sometimes. Then we make it proper." The words came out before she'd fully formed the thought. "We make it so no one can talk." Daniel's eyes widened slightly. "What are you saying?" Rachel's heart hammered. Was she really suggesting this? But looking at him, at this man who'd risked everything for a promise, who saw her as someone worth protecting, who made her feel like a person again instead of just a survivor, she knew she was. "I'm saying, maybe we help each other. You need a home. I need help with the ranch. We could make an arrangement, a partnership. Marriage." Daniel said the word she danced around. "If that's what it takes to make it acceptable." "Yes." "Rachel, you barely know me. I know you kept your promise to my husband. I know you've protected me at risk to your own life. I know you're honest and brave and decent. That's more than most women know about their husbands before they marry. But you don't love me." The statement hung in the air. Rachel couldn't deny it. She didn't love him. Not the way she'd loved Thomas. But she felt something. Respect. Trust. The beginnings of something deeper, maybe, given time. "I loved once," she said carefully. "It was beautiful, and it destroyed me when I lost it. I don't know if I can love like that again. But I can offer partnership, companionship, a chance for both of us to build something instead of just surviving. Maybe that's enough." Daniel studied her face, searching for something. What he found there must have satisfied him, because he nodded slowly. "Maybe it is enough. But not yet. Not until this is finished. Not until I know you're safe. Ask me again when Wainwright's dealt with and the gold is secured. If you still mean it then, if you still want a broken man with more past than future, then I'll say yes." Relief and something else washed through Rachel. She wasn't sure what she'd expected him to say, but this felt right. Not a rejection, but a postponement until clearer heads prevailed. "Then we have a plan," she said. "We deal with Wainwright. We secure the gold. And then we figure out what comes next. Together. Together." They sat by the creek as the afternoon stretched long, still holding hands, both lost in thoughts of futures that might actually exist beyond mere survival. It wasn't love. Not yet. But it was hope. And that was something neither of them had dared feel in a very long time. As evening approached, they prepared to move again. Couldn't stay in one place too long. Wainwright would have men searching every canyon and draw within 20 miles. "We should head to Redemption tonight," Daniel said. "Arrive before dawn. Set up the meeting on our terms, in a public place. The restaurant maybe, or the general store, somewhere with witnesses. Wainwright will have men all over town. That's why we go in quiet. Find the sheriff first, explain the situation. If he's as corrupt as you say, at least we'll know what we're dealing with. And if he tries to arrest us, we have the deed proving Wainwright's desperate. We have 2 bags of gold proving we can pay. And we have the truth. Sometimes that's enough. Rachel wasn't as optimistic, but she trusted Daniel's judgment. He'd kept her alive this long. They rode as the sun set, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple. The spring evening was cool, pleasant, at odds with the danger they rode toward. Rachel tried to remember the last time she'd felt anything close to peace. Couldn't. But riding beside Daniel, their horses matching pace, the vast Texas sky open above them, she felt something close to it. Not peace, exactly, but purpose, direction. The sense that whatever came next, she wouldn't face it alone. They reached the outskirts of Redemption just before midnight. The town was small, maybe 30 buildings clustered around a main street. Light and noise spilled from the Silver Dollar Saloon. Everything else was dark and quiet. "We find a place to wait until morning," Daniel said. "Somewhere we can watch the street without being seen." They found an abandoned stable at the edge of town, half collapsed, but providing enough shelter to hide the horses and themselves. Rachel spread one horse blanket on the ground, sat with her back against a weathered beam. Daniel took first watch, positioning himself where he could see the street. Rachel tried to sleep, but her mind wouldn't settle. Tomorrow, they'd confront Wainwright. Tomorrow, everything would be decided. They'd either win their freedom or die trying. "Daniel?" she said into the darkness. "Yes?" She lead more they're supposed to me once bless. So has to round her. Like you mentioned this dry, the where there are not her him. They're my place where a lost allows white. Yes? Cone let Dranding attend to get out of him. Clow fell minded then, all the crime planet or bones the twice. Thank you. For everything. For keeping your promise. For protecting me. For giving me hope that there might be something worth fighting for. She heard him shift, move closer. He sat beside her, his shoulder warm against hers. You gave me hope too, Rachel. Gave me a reason to be more than just a man keeping a promise. You reminded me what it feels like to care about someone's future. To want to protect something not because I have to, but because I want to. His hand found hers in the darkness. Rachel laced her fingers through his, held on tight. They sat like that for a long time, watching the stars through gaps in the stable roof, drawing strength from each other's presence. Not speaking. Not needing to. In the quiet hours before dawn, Rachel realized something that should have terrified her, but instead felt inevitable. She was falling for Daniel Mackenzie. Maybe not love yet, but something deeper than partnership, stronger than convenience. She was falling. And for the first time since Thomas died, she wasn't afraid of where she'd land. Because Daniel would catch her. She knew that now. Trusted it with a certainty that defied logic. And maybe, just maybe, she could catch him too. Dawn came too soon, and not soon enough. Rachel woke to find Daniel already up, checking their weapons, preparing for whatever the day would bring. She stretched, wincing at muscles stiff from sleeping on hard ground. "Morning," he said, offering her a canteen. She drank, then splashed some water on her face. It was cold, bracing, waking her fully. Today was the day. No more running. No more hiding. "The town's starting to wake up," Daniel observed. "We should move soon. Find the sheriff before Wainwright knows we're here." They led the horses through back alleys, staying out of sight. The sheriff's office was a small building near the main street. Through the window, Rachel could see a man at a desk, gray-haired and thick through the middle. Daniel knocked. The sheriff looked up, his expression shifting from bored to alert when he saw them. His hand moved toward his gun, then stopped when Daniel raised his hands peacefully. "We're not here for trouble," Daniel said through the door. "We're here to report a crime. Multiple murders, attempted theft. We have evidence." The sheriff studied them for a long moment, then gestured for them to enter. Inside, the office smelled of coffee and old paper. The sheriff remained seated, hand still near his gun, eyes wary. "I'm Sheriff Coleman. Who are you and what crime are you reporting?" "I'm Daniel Mackenzie. This is Mrs. Rachel Brennan. Ezekiel Wainwright sent men to kill us and steal Mrs. Brennan's property. We were forced to defend ourselves. 5 men are dead. Their bodies are at the old line shack north of here." Coleman's expression didn't change. "That's a serious accusation. You got proof?" Daniel laid the deed to the silver dollar on the desk. "Wainwright owes the bank in Austin $10,000. He's desperate. Mrs. Brennan's late husband hid something of value on her property. Wainwright tried to take it by force. We have the right to defend ourselves and our property." "What thing of value?" "Confederate gold." Daniel set one of the canvas bags on the desk, opened it. Gold coins spilled across the scarred wood. Coleman's eyes widened. His hand moved away from his gun, reaching instead for one of the coins. He examined it, bit it, held it to the light. "Lord have mercy. Where'd this come from?" "It's a long story," Rachel said. "But it belongs to me. My husband hid it. Wainwright found out and tried to kill me for it. We're willing to make a deal with him. Enough gold to clear his debts in exchange for leaving us alone. But we need the law to witness it and enforce it." Coleman leaned back in his chair, stroking his thick mustache. Rachel tried to read his expression. Was he considering their proposal, or calculating how much he could get by selling them out to Wainwright? "Ezekiel Wainwright is a powerful man in this town," Coleman said finally. "He employs half the people here, pays for the church roof, sponsors the school. You're asking me to go against him based on the word of 2 strangers and a bag of gold that might be stolen." "It's not stolen," Rachel said firmly. "My husband earned it protecting his unit during the war. He kept it safe rather than let it fall into the wrong hands. He died protecting it. Now men are trying to kill me for it. All I want is to live in peace on my own land. And if I say no, if I tell you to leave town and settle this yourselves, then more men will die," Daniel said quietly. "And some of that blood will be on your hands, Sheriff. We're offering a legal solution, a way for everyone to walk away with something. You can be part of that solution or part of the problem. Your choice." Coleman studied them both. Rachel held his gaze, refusing to look away. She'd learned that showing weakness invited predators. She had to be strong now, stronger than she'd ever been. "All right," Coleman said finally. "I'll arrange a meeting. Neutral ground. The restaurant, noon today. You bring the gold. Wainwright brings a signed document releasing all claims to your property. I'll witness it, make it legal." But I warn you both, if this goes sideways, if anyone dies in my town, I'm holding you responsible." "Fair enough," Daniel said. They left the sheriff's office as the sun climbed higher. Rachel felt lighter, hopeful. Maybe this would actually work. Maybe they could end this without more violence. Daniel was less optimistic. "Coleman will tell Wainwright the second we're out of sight. Wainwright will have time to plan. We need to be ready for anything." "You think he'll break the deal?" "I think desperate men do desperate things. But we don't have a choice. This is our best shot." They spent the morning preparing, found a spot with a view of the restaurant, checked every entrance and exit. Daniel positioned their horses where they could reach them quickly if needed. Every detail mattered. Every advantage counted. At 11:30, they entered the restaurant. It was a modest place. 6 tables, a kitchen and back. The owner, a thin woman with tired eyes, looked surprised to see customers this early. "We need the place to ourselves for an hour," Daniel said, laying coins on the counter. "Private business meeting. This enough?" The woman looked at the coins, then at them. Whatever she saw in their faces made her nod quickly. "I'll be in back. Call if you need anything." They took the table farthest from the door, backs to the wall. Daniel kept his hand near his gun. Rachel tried to calm her racing heart. Sheriff Coleman arrived at 5 to 12, looking uncomfortable. He positioned himself near the door, hand resting on his gun belt. At exactly noon, Ezekiel Wainwright walked in. He was shorter than Rachel expected, maybe 5'8", but he carried himself like a much bigger man. Dark hair, slicked back. Expensive suit. Cold eyes that calculated worth before seeing humanity. He had 2 men with him, both armed, both watching Daniel with predatory focus. "Mrs. Brennan," Wainwright said, voice smooth as oil. "We finally meet. I've heard so much about you. Wish I could say the same." Rachel kept her voice steady, despite her pounding heart. Wainwright smiled. It didn't reach his eyes. He pulled out a chair, sat without being invited. His men remained standing, hands near their weapons. "I understand you have something that belongs to me." "You understand wrong," Daniel said. "The gold belongs to Mrs. Brennan. Her husband hid it. She inherited it. You have no legal claim." "Legal?" Wainwright rolled the word around like he was tasting it. "Interesting choice of words. I could argue that Confederate gold belongs to no one, that it's abandoned property. I could argue that Thomas Brennan stole it in the first place. But I'm a reasonable man. Let's make a deal." Daniel slid the deed across the table. "You need $10,000. We'll give you enough gold to clear your debt and have some left over. In exchange, you sign a document releasing all claims to Mrs. Brennan's property. You leave her alone. Forever." Wainwright picked up the deed, studied it. His expression didn't change, but Rachel saw his jaw tighten. He was cornered, and he knew it. "How much gold are we talking?" $12,000 worth. Enough to save your saloon and set you up comfortable. "And the rest? There's more, isn't there?" "That's none of your concern," Rachel said. "This is a one-time offer. Take it, or face bankruptcy, and watch your empire crumble." Wainwright's eyes hardened. For a moment, Rachel thought he'd refuse, thought his pride would make him do something stupid. Then he smiled, and it was the coldest thing she'd ever seen. "You've got guts, Mrs. Brennan. I'll give you that. He pulled papers from his jacket. I had my lawyer draw these up this morning. Sign here, and the ranch is legally yours with no claims against it. I sign here, agreeing to the terms. Rachel read the document carefully. It was exactly what they'd asked for. Too easy. She glanced at Daniel. He was thinking the same thing. Sign it, she said. Wainwright signed with a flourish. Rachel and Daniel signed as well. Sheriff Coleman witnessed, added his signature, then folded the document and tucked it in his vest. Now the gold, Wainwright said. Daniel placed the 2 bags on the table. Wainwright opened them, examined the coins. Satisfaction flickered across his face. Pleasure doing business with you. He stood, gestured to his men. They picked up the bags. As Wainwright reached the door, he turned back. One more thing, Mrs. Brennan. Your husband was a fool to cross me, but he died with honor. More than I can say for most men. You've got 3 days to get your affairs in order and leave Texas. If I see you after that, our agreement is void. That wasn't part of the deal, Daniel said, hand moving to his gun. It is now. Consider it a gift. 3 days to disappear, or I'll find a way around that document. Your choice. He was gone before they could respond. Rachel's hands shook with rage. He can't do that. He just did, Coleman said quietly. And he's right. That document protects your property, but it doesn't protect you. Best thing you can do is sell the ranch and start somewhere new. No. Rachel stood, fury giving her strength. I've lost everything once. I'm not losing it again. That ranch is mine. I'm staying. Daniel touched her arm. Rachel, be smart. He'll kill you. Then you'll have to protect me, like you promised Thomas. She turned to face him fully. You asked me to wait until this was finished to ask again. Well, it's finished. So I'm asking, stay with me. Help me build something worth keeping. Be my partner, my husband, my future. Daniel looked at her, really looked at her. In his eyes, she saw war and loss, hope and fear. A man standing at a crossroads trying to decide which path led home. Yes, he said simply. Yes to all of it. Relief flooded through Rachel. She wasn't alone anymore. Wouldn't face Wainwright's threats or the future's uncertainty by herself. Then we're staying, she said to Coleman. And if Wainwright comes for us, you'll be witnessing self-defense. Again. Coleman shook his head, but didn't argue. Your funeral. Both of you. They left Redemption as the sun reached its peak, rode north toward the ranch, toward the cave, toward whatever future they were brave enough to claim. That night, they retrieved the rest of the gold. Enough to rebuild the ranch, buy more cattle, hire hands, live comfortably for years. But more than that, they had each other. In the shelter of the cave, by lantern light, Daniel took Rachel's hands in his. I need you to know something, he said. I can't promise I'll always say the right thing. I've got ghosts that wake me at night. I'm not the easiest man to live with. I've got ghosts too. And I'm not easy either. But I can promise I'll protect you, stand by you, work beside you to build something lasting. And maybe, if you're patient with me, I'll learn how to love again. Really love, the way you deserve. Rachel's eyes filled with tears, but they weren't sad. I think I'm already learning. With you. He kissed her then, gentle and careful, like she was something precious that might break. Rachel kissed him back, pouring into it everything she couldn't yet say out loud. Hope. Trust. The beginning of love that would grow stronger with time. When they parted, both were smiling. They rode home the next morning, the word home finally meaning something warm instead of just a place. The ranch looked different in the spring sunlight. Not perfect, not easy, but theirs. Over the next days, they worked side by side, repaired fences, tended cattle, made plans for the future. Each night, they sat on the porch watching the sunset, Daniel's arm around Rachel's shoulders, both of them content in the quiet peace they'd earned. A week after the meeting with Wainwright, a rider came from town. Rachel's hand went to her rifle, but Daniel recognized him as one of Coleman's deputies. "Message from the sheriff," the deputy said, handing over a folded paper. "Thought you'd want to know. Ezekiel Wainwright left Texas 3 days ago, sold the saloon, paid his debts, and disappeared. Said something about California." Rachel and Daniel exchanged glances. It was over. Really over. That night, they married in the small church in town with Sheriff Coleman and his wife as witnesses. Nothing fancy. Just two people promising to face whatever came next together. They rode back to the ranch as husband and wife, the sunset painting the sky in shades of gold and rose. Rachel looked at the land stretching before them, at the man beside her, at the life they were beginning. "Thank you," she said. "For what?" "For keeping your promise to Thomas. For giving me a reason to fight. For being exactly what I needed when I needed it most." Daniel brought her hand to his lips, kissed her knuckles gently. "Thank you. For giving me a reason to be more than just a man with a past. For showing me that second chances are real. That it's never too late to build something worth keeping." They reached the ranch as stars began to appear. Daniel helped Rachel down from her horse, his hands lingering on her waist. She looked up at him, saw her future in his eyes, and felt peace settle into her bones. Inside their home, Daniel built a fire while Rachel prepared a simple supper. They ate together at the table, talking about plans for tomorrow, for next week, for the years ahead. Everything felt possible now. Everything felt right. After supper, they stood on the porch in the warm spring night. Daniel's arms came around Rachel from behind, pulling her back against his chest. She laced her fingers through his, tilted her head back against his shoulder. "I never thought I'd feel this way again," she whispered. "Safe, happy, loved. Neither did I. But here we are. Here we are." They stood like that for a long time, watching fireflies dance across the prairie, listening to the night sounds they'd learned to love. Two broken people who'd found each other in the darkness and built something beautiful from the pieces. Daniel turned her in his arms, looked down into her face. "I love you, Rachel Mackenzie. I don't know when it happened exactly, but it did. Somewhere between that first morning and tonight, you became everything." Rachel's throat tightened with emotion. "I love you too. I thought I couldn't. Thought that part of me died with Thomas. But you taught me my heart was bigger than I knew. That loving again doesn't mean loving less." He kissed her then, deep and sure, and Rachel felt the last of her walls crumble. This was real. This was lasting. This was the happily ever after she'd stopped believing in. They went inside together, Daniel banking the fire, Rachel blowing out the lanterns. In their bedroom, in the warm darkness, they began their life together as husband and wife. Not with fear or hesitation, but with trust earned through fire and blood, and choosing each other every single day. Later, Rachel lay in Daniel's arms, listening to his steady heartbeat, feeling safer than she'd felt in years. Outside, the prairie night sang its ancient song. Inside, two hearts beat as one. "No regrets?" Daniel murmured into her hair. "Not a single one." "Good. Because you're stuck with me now." Rachel smiled against his chest. "I'm counting on it."